Hey everyone, Tech Sensory here. I know in my last video I said that one of the next reviews I was going to do is the other mod retro game that I bought, which is Wicked Plague. But I had also posted a image that I recently purchased a copy of The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX on eBay. And I just wanted to do a review of this because it's a retro game, whereas, I mean, I guess technically all of these games are considered retro, but Dragon Hymn and Wicked Plague are more modern games or newer made games, whereas this is a game that was released back in the day. So I thought I would do a review of it, not review, but more of a, kind of an unboxing, how it feels to me, and then I wanted to show a little bit of what it looks like on the Chromatic itself. Again, I wanted to say going forward that not all my reviews and everything of video that I make is going to be about the Chromatic or Game Boy games. I plan on doing reviews of other tech that I use, more on the side of like how it feels, so that for people who are trying to make decisions on buying certain things, maybe they'll get a better idea of that. And so for what you're looking at here is what they list on eBay as a CIB or complete in box copy. It wasn't cheap. It was all I'll say is it was like under $200. But yeah, unfortunately, complete in box copies of games such as Zelda do run a good amount of money. It's also not a super high rated, like it wasn't taken to a company where they rate the boxes. I don't really care. I just care that it was in good condition. The seller was had really good reviews, had a lot of information, good communication, and they said the battery had been recently replaced as well. So the game itself is in really good condition, and yeah, and they also shipped it in this protector case as well. So obviously you can see there's like some wear and tear on the box itself, but it feels really good to hold one of these. As I said in the previous video, these are a little bit larger than the mod retro ones, which somebody in the comment section pointed out is about the same size as the Japanese boxes. So the US boxes were a little bit thicker, but you can see here on the side that this game is compatible with both the original Game Boy and Game Boy Color, along with the Game Boy printer and the Super Game Boy. And I like how it even shows you a description of what the game, or not description, but it shows you an example of what the game looks like in color and what it looks like running it on the original black and white Game Boy. So for those of you who don't know, this is actually not the original first version of the game. So there was an original Link's Awakening that was released on the standard black and white Game Boy, and they re-released this one on the Game Boy Color called Link's Awakening DX, which includes new secret dungeon accessible only for Game Boy Color systems. So this was like, this was just a better version, very similar to the original, but it definitely used the full color palette of the Game Boy Color. And the dungeon that they added, if I remember correctly, definitely was it was all about colors, and so you just couldn't play it on the original Game Boy. And I don't know if the Game Boy printer worked on the original as well, but yeah, it's this is, in my opinion, not only one of the best Zelda games on the Game Boy, but just in my opinion, one of the best Zelda games ever made. It was really different compared to the other ones where there was no Zelda in the game, and Link was on an island, and he was kind of dreaming. There's a lot of references to other games. He could get an item that actually let him jump. There was sideways sections. There was a Chomp Chomp from Mario in there, so it was very playful. But for a Game Boy game, it had a lot of depth to it, and it just played really, really well. And so yes, there is a modernized version on the Nintendo Switch. I did beat that one. It's good, but I don't know if I like it more than the original. There's just again, there's something about the art style of original Game Boy games that definitely sets it apart from something like what they do with the modern style. I really like these plastic cases. I kind of wish I'm kind of probably gonna look out for more of these when I buy Game Boy games in the future, because they really do feel like they're gonna protect the case. And obviously, over time, these cardboard cases are not gonna hold up very well. But I'm gonna try to be very careful here when I open this. Slide it out. So there it is. You know, and like overall, like, I mean, obviously you can see there's some wear and tear here, but the box still feels, you know, it still feels good holding in your hands. Like, takes me back to when I was a kid, and you know, you can see that, like, obviously there's, you know, it's a little lift on the lip, but that happens almost immediately. This is something that was always a problem with box games, and you know, you just kind of have to deal with it. But yep, I'm gonna lift it right here, open it up, and so you get that peek in to the original box. This should have everything, you know, all the paperwork. This is a lot easier to do when you're not looking behind a camera. But yeah, you'll see the inside of the game here, and we're just gonna remove everything. Put that off the side. So these games came in these cardboard holders, which also a lot of them didn't hold up, you know, to the test of time. Some Game Boy games came with like plastic cases for the games, and you'll also notice too that, like, if you see the original Zelda game on the Game Boy, it was a gray cartridge, and because this is DX, it's a black cartridge. A lot of DX games, I believe, I think I've said this in a previous video, but you can look it up online. Most Game Boy Color games have a black cartridge, and I believe Game Boy Color only games have a see-through cartridge. But again, I don't know if they kept that like for everything. But yeah, there's nothing underneath that. You'll see, like I said, the card itself is actually in pretty good condition. There's not even a lot of like wear, made in Japan. So hopefully this will, you know, last me a long time, but I'll be very careful with that. And here's the book. Book is in great condition. I'll come back to this a little bit later, but then we also got some consumer information. Man, I remember these as a kid. Got the hungry, great gaming information, doesn't come in a can. A subscription to Nintendo Power is all you need. I love that magazine as a kid. For those of you who are a little bit younger, you have to understand that, like, some of us, you know, computers have been around for a while, but like, I grew up fairly poor, and we didn't have a computer in my house until I was about 16 years old. And so stuff like Nintendo Power was the only way for me to get information about games. And, you know, and when I bought a game, I had to make it last. So, you know, video game magazines were super important to me. And I would reread the same article sometimes over and over and over again. And Nintendo Power also just had a lot of really good articles. It had strategy guides for games. It had secrets. It was such a great magazine. It's definitely an end of an era. And definitely the older you get, the more of the world that you grew up with feels like it fades away. But, so you remember in the previous video I made about Dragon Hymn that I complained about how small the lettering was. You'll notice that's not a problem in this book, because they understood that the pages were small, you know, and they didn't need to, you know, outside of like the tiny lettering on the bottom here, the regular just pages were filled with good sized lettering, and of course, fantastic artwork. I love to go through these books. And, you know, back in the day, some games came with, you know, cheap black and white books, and then games like this came with full color artwork. It would be kind of ironic if these games that were supposed to, you know, the whole advertising was supposed to be that it's now in color, came in with a black and white book. So glad they didn't do that. You got the subscreen. Obviously, this is kind of one of the negatives of the Zelda, is the fact that you get so many items and you only have 2 buttons to use, so you're constantly getting access to the subscreen to switch items. There's the map. Tells you about the different dungeons and marks. You know, it actually was worthwhile in these games to read the booklet, and because the games just didn't hold your hand for the most part, which is shocking, even for, you know, especially for a Nintendo game. Nowadays, I feel like the first 2 hours of a Nintendo game on Switch, they just, you know, hold your hand, tell you what to do. It's like, can you just have a pop-up screen that says, hey, do you know what you're doing, or have you played this kind of game before, so we don't have to waste your time? But I love how they have like different artwork for all of Link's actions over here. Heroic equipment. So yeah, you'll see like you get like the Rock's Feather here, which lets you actually jump over pits. And this game has a lot of items to it. It's actually surprising. Yoshi doll. You know, when this game came out on the different dungeon keys, when it came out on the original Game Boy, you know, Game Boy was a very pared down experience versus the consoles. But when you see a game like this, you'll see that, you know, wow, this is not this doesn't feel like a pared down experience. I think it felt a lot like Pokemon in the sense of like, this feels like you're getting a, you know, a full game that could easily have been made on consoles, but instead you're getting it on a portable, you know, system. And here are the instruments. They go, you know, they have unique artwork for everything. Ending and saving the game. So this game you can hit select and start A, B at the same time to get and save the game. Dragging him. I wish you would have taken some notes here. There's of course a fishing mini game. There's a crane mini game. Man, this is gonna, you know, all the character artwork. You got Marin, Terran, the owl. There's a Nintendo Power where they covered this game, and it's just a gold background and the big owl on the front cover. I do wish that they had released this game with a gold cartridge, though, similar to how they did with the NES games. And then this covers the new features for the Game Boy Color, such as the Color Dungeon. Oh, and the fact that you can take pictures with, there's actually a camera shop. I do believe the Game Boy Color camera does work with the Mod Retro here. So just wanted to, not that it's part of this game, but I did call them or contact them regarding the scuff here on this IR sensor, and they just offered to send me another one, and they sent me a link to some instructions on how to replace this, which seemed fairly easy to do. I don't know if I'll do it right away, but yeah, I already got the replacement. You know, great customer service from them. So the all-important putting it in, and then the all-important turning it on. Beautiful. And you'll see I just created a quick save file. I'll delete all the other ones. Look at that viewing angle right there. And I think people forget on the old Game Boys how the screen was like caved in. No, sapphire screen here, absolutely gorgeous. I think this is the best modern day experience. If you want to play these games in the best possible way with the most accurate screen type, this is easily the way to do it. And then of course I named it Link, but you'll see that this is what the game looks like. And this is where you start. I only got one item, which is the shield. I forgot you can press that. And then if you hit select, then you set Marin and Terran's house. So like over here is the chop chop. Yep. I can't remember if it attacks you. No, it doesn't. And then you can go in here and there's a little mini one. I'm telling you, man, there's so much love and care poured into this game. And then they re-released it. You know, it, like I said, this just looks, it still looks so good. And being able to play it on a Chromatic, and you know, if you're ever in a point where in your life where you can collect Game Boy Color games and you want to collect them, and you like these kinds of games, this is one to always have. And I also like Ocarina, Oracle of Seasons and Ages. Those are also expensive to get, but yeah, these look absolutely amazing. And the Chromatic team, like I said, this is, you know, you could buy other Game Boy Color reproductions such as the analog, but that's just gonna have a, you know, it's not gonna have the pixel ratio that this screen does. And so yeah, I don't know, this to me is the pinnacle. So this is just all I kind of wanted to show. You know, if everything just feels, I don't want to say it feels retro to, you know, to touch it, but you know, going back here, like I said, these books, you know, they feel like they're good quality. It's clearly held up in time, you know, and this was treated well, but the print feels good. Even the box here, like, you know, obviously it's it's just a basic box, but I'm glad they had a package. I'm not really quite sure what that was. I'm glad that everything in this package was, you know, the way that it was back in the day. And even though most of the stuff like this is just, you know, as a kid you probably wouldn't pay much attention to it, and to be fair, I don't even pay much attention to it as an adult. It made you feel like you were getting a full product. You know, you take all the stuff out. You have 3 different books, you know, or 3 pamphlets in your hand. You know, what's all this stuff about? Even though it's just consumer information, advertising, and the book, but the book is nice and, you know, nice and thick. It gives you all the information about this game that you could possibly want to, and yeah, and you can put it all in there, and it just feels better than getting a plastic case that you open and there's just one item in there and maybe like a single page cut out of nothing really. So this was, you know, I'm gonna probably, if I do any more of these in the future for games, for older games, I might call them something like Retro Feels or something along those lines. The videos that I plan on doing next are still going to be for the Chromatic. I have played a little bit of the Wicked Plague, so I kind of want to do an unboxing and feeling of the box and everything of that one. And then I actually got an email from Mod Retro because I had purchased a Chromatic. They're partnering with a company to do a Tetris themed case for the Mod Retro, which is in my opinion, I was like, the one thing that you guys are missing is you're missing a case for this. And so I did buy the case, and I'm not sure exactly when it's going to arrive, but I will definitely be doing a you know, unboxing and feeling of that one, and just how well it works with the Chromatic. It's supposed to be able to fit several cartridges in there, so it looks adequately retro and fun at the same time. So, which is, you know, you looking at the color scheme of this Chromatic. This is what the system is all about. There is no doubting the fact that what you're buying is you know, it's a fun handheld. It's a fun gaming system. It's not some kind of serious thing that you're purchasing here. But yeah, I'll see you all later. Bye.